So we created our database, we set up our database, enough of databases. Now it's time to get back into the actual networking portion. So now let's add a new class and just name this listener. We've done this a few times, so I don't have to explain much. I'll just run through it so we can get to the other stuff. If you have no clue what is going on right now, I suggest watching the past tutorials, so you're not just in the dark. Alright, now that our listener is out the way, let's create a new class and name it client.cs. Using system.net and using system.net.sockets. Socket, make it byte, buffer equals new byte. 512, that should be enough. We'll need for this. We'll take the socket that we accepted as a parameter, and we'll set that in. We'll also set the time to receive timeout to 5 seconds. Now, some of you might notice there's something a little different here. Instead of just having int rest equals socket.receive, I also have socket error up here. Now, if we don't take the socket error with the out parameter of receive, then we'll also have to have a try catch But that's you don't really, after I discovered this, I don't really use try catches for this anymore. You can just get the actual socket error and then you can check it right here without needing any extra lines with a try catch. Now if it's not equal to success, then we'll return null, and you'll see later on if null is returned, we'll just close the socket and we'll close the client and then we'll continue on, and you'll see that later on. We'll in a bit. Let's add our send method. Now this class is actually quite simple. Let's just go through it. We have our socket variable, this will hold our socket that was accepted by our listener. This will be the buffer that will receive the data we receive from our login clients. And we have our receive method. Now we're not using this asynchronously because it's not really needed, and you'll see why when we get actually into it. And this is what's new to some of you. I do this so I don't need to put extra lines with a try catch. It's actually quite convenient. If it's not success, we'll return null and we'll check against that when we try and receive from our client. And if everything works out fine, we'll return the actual buffer of the data we received. And the send method, which is pretty self-explanatory, and close, which is also self-explanatory. Now let's make a new class, and you guys should recognize this from the past few tutorials. Just make it a code file and name it headers. Using system and public enum headers ushort. We will have login and register. And we will also have a few subheaders that we'll be using in there'll be error codes. We'll be also sending these along with our main headers. This could just be a byte. We'll just use a ushort. Success. Exists. Invalid login, and error. So these are the headers that we will be using with our packets: login, register, success, exist, invalid login, and error. And you'll see this come into play more when we actually start setting up the flow of the system. Alright, okay, now let's head over to program and let's start setting up our structure a bit. Listener equals new listener dot accepted plus equals, just press tab twice, do it for you, and listener dot start, and let's just make a consistent or constant port number. I like to say consistent. We'll const int port equals, just use 1 2 3 4. And we'll listen in on that port, and system diagnostics process get current process dot wait for exit. Using wait for exit can be better than using read or read line. So if you accidentally press enter or space or something like that, the program won't close. You have to actually press X. Just little safety precautions here. And before we do anything in accepted, let's add a couple of methods. Static void send packet writer. And I also forgot, go to wherever you saved your project and add the